So this first thing is a hand turned, but even more intriguing are these still in their paper. I've never seen anything like that before, so I actually think it's kind of cool. What's going on, everyone? Garth here from Archisalvage. It is mid-afternoon on New Year's Day. I'm just getting out to the storage unit now, a bit late. Did some listings this morning, and it just dawned on me I haven't actually done an episode in a long time. It's been mostly shorts lately. And I thought I would just take a look with you briefly at what I'm looking at today. Some of this I've already photographed, and some of it will show up in shorts, but some of it won't. So I just have my photo area full of about 20 different items that I've mostly uncovered yesterday. This is all garage sale stuff from a while back, and it's a pretty interesting item, so let's take a look. Okay, I've just cleared out a bit of space in front of me. There's a few things off camera, and I think we'll start with those. So this first thing is a hand-turned bamboo cup with what looks like some sort of mahogany to the base. It's a very lightweight mahogany, so I believe it's plantation type stuff. And I can't seem to get this focused, but it says Max brand made in Australia. So I need to look up. I will photograph it, but that's a nice little item. Next one is I don't see these very often. It's just a beer stein, but it's got a leather wrap on it that says New Zealand. So I don't know if this is a tourist item, most likely, but that may have some value. Next up, and I've got some off camera as well, which are quite unusual. This is Johnson & Johnson, or Johnson's it says here, but I think it's switched. Yeah, it says Johnson & Johnson there. Standard dressing number 12 in a box. So there's two of these, unused. See, I think there's one that's a little bit more open. You can see it's still sealed. I have no idea if there's a market for that. But even more intriguing are these still in their paper seal, which I'm assuming are also dressings. There's three here. But then there's also an actual partially sealed bag with more in it, and it has, oh yeah, there's white bandages, Darwin. I can't quite get the camera to focus in on it today. But I don't know if there's a market for that, but it looks like it says Preston, made in England. So that's potentially a very interesting item, actually. And this next one is also very intriguing. Now this is just looks like a Ferrero or a share box, but it is full of stenciling stuff. It's like stenciling tools, stencils themselves. The plastic isn't really helping me out here. Let's see if I can get a better... You can see some of this here. I'm thinking the best way to do this is probably an online, or probably just a bulk lot, but I don't know for sure. So that's an item for research. And we've got these, this is the stuff I've never seen before. We've got these tips. I've seen those, but these various tips, and there's, I think, a pen here. I've never seen anything like that before, so I gotta look these up. Maybe it's worth busting it up and they have an individual value. I doubt there's a huge market for it. I can see a brand, I think it says Uno, standard pen, hold pen upright, wash out and pushed wire down after use, made in England. Yeah, so that's a pretty cool item. All this from garage sales. From that one garage sale. I think I've done some episodes on it. And interestingly, this is stuff I arrived after everyone else had already picked over it. So there are a lot of people that just cherry pick. They're looking for a certain thing or whatever, and stuff gets left behind. And I think some interesting stuff. I'm just going to set this stuff aside here. Alright, next up, and this is in a short. I don't know if I put the short up by the time this, so there may be some overlap. This one says, Helen Steiner Rice Keepsake Collection, Gibson Greeting Cards Incorporated, made in Taiwan. This is not my area of expertise. In fact, I don't like these kinds of things, but if they do sell, we'll be alright. I bought a lot here recently. I'll put some photos in, actually. And it had a sign that was made by a famous Australian artist, Aboriginal artist, and I bought it for the sign. No one else seemed to want it, but it had three ceramic bits, I think by Guy Boyd or something like that. And I put them up here with the sign, and the ceramic sold first. So all of those items are gone, but the ceramic sold well. So it just depends, I guess. Next little item. I'm always a sucker for these things. I don't know that it has any value, but it has, if I can see it, has a bit of lettering to the bottom, which again, there we go. IS, is that international standard? I don't know. 1109, maybe. No idea. What do we have here? We lost. Oh, that's part of the Johnson & Johnson. This little, I don't like EP&S. Never liked it, except for souvenir spoons, which I do well with for some reason. But I've seen these around, and they seem pretty popular in the antique shops as well. So I have photographed it, and the nice thing about it is it fits in a small. So even if it's only worth $20, including postage, it's probably worth listing. Same again for this one, though it does have a little bit of corrosion or something there. I'll have to look these up. So with things like this, I usually just take 1 or 2 shots and then go do the research later. And if it's worth listing, I list it. Next up, these ones I don't think are worth listing, but maybe. So that's a maybe. This one I think is almost certainly a not, because it's modern, and I just noticed last night on a few chips, but again, an item for research. Okay, next up, some glass with no, I don't know, is it 70s or 80s, something like that. Maybe it's interesting, maybe not. I don't really think it's going to be, but again, I guess. This thing I liked, and if it had a more legible brand, maybe it would do well. But again, another research item. I've never owned something like that before, so I actually think it's kind of cool. But we'll see how we go with that. Okay, next up, let's look at these Hatchimal things. Now, I've had these for a long time, and I didn't know how these work, but these are worth listing. They do sell okay. And I think this one needs AAA batteries, and I keep forgetting to bring some down, but that should go all right. I'll probably bundle them together and get them gone. This little mirror, no idea how well that's going to do, but it is cool. If I had a shop still, that'd definitely be in the shop. These are probably my favorite because I absolutely love cherry. And cherry grows in Japan. I believe it grows in Europe. And it definitely grows in the United States. And it is one of my most favorite materials to work with when I'm making furniture. And I have looked these up in the past. Hand carved and hand polished Japan cherry wood. Now they're slightly different. None of them are exactly the same. Some are slightly taller than the others. But I think that set of 6 will do well. And I look forward to getting those listed. Next up is quite an unusual item for me. This is a pattern for making your own. Open. Rocking horse. So I need to look this up. This is at least 30 years old, maybe older. I'm pretty it's got the number in that. I'll have to look that up, but I'm pretty excited about that, because even if shipping, if you had to send tracking, this would be a $6.50 ship or cheaper, depending. And, if it's worth $5, then obviously you're not going to have an expensive tracked postage on it. But I'm excited to see what that one will achieve. This one has got me a bit intrigued because it's quite heavy. This is thick. Like, the material's thick. I don't know if this is a barber's thing. No idea what this would be for. And it says on the back, Fletcher One Metal, I think it says. I'm pretty sure it's stainless steel, but it has kind of a pewter look to it, but pretty sure that's not pewter. But this, you can tell it's a well-made item, so whether that has any value, I don't know. I'm just going to look at this one last item, and then I'm going to reset and come back with you. This is a tin. Tins, I used to get excited about tins, and I have sold a few for good money, but lately they've done poorly for me. So And I do have some to list, but this one I thought was a good little Pascal item, And if it's not interesting anymore, then I will just start doing the. I have so many like bulk coins to sell. We can do it that way where you fill it up with a bunch of good coins that you don't want to deal with, and you move it on. Anyway, I'll get back with you in a minute. So last but not least, this is all from a drawer of tools that was heavily picked over and people left. But I love all kinds of old tools that people, if they're not necessarily looking for it, they'll leave it. These things will either go as a lot or will go individually depending. But we have stuff made in England, we have stuff made in Australia. We even have a Beacon 295 tape measure that was got just a polished steel blade on it, and it was made in West Germany. This is a company you should always watch out for. It's called Raybone. You can find a lot of times your timber fold-up rulers are by them. You can't really pick it out here, but that one should go all right. And then when you open it, it says Stanley. So there must be a point where Stanley, either they were buying Stanley blades, or Stanley had taken over. I don't know. I'd have to look that up. But it says Stanley made in Australia on the inside, and the case says Raybone on the outside. And then I'll come to that in a minute. This is a very, back in the old days, this is actually quite a heavy little tape measure. You pick up a tape measure by other companies of that size, quite small, and it won't feel anywhere near as heavy as this. And this one, made in England. I'm looking forward to seeing how we go with these. I don't know this one, but I think this one's made in Japan. I think it says right on the back. Kyoto, Japan. Sometimes these little oddball items are so rare and that they're actually quite collectible, and very few people know about them. So it is worth taking your time to look at oddball, old school items. Levels are another great example. This was ignored. I've sold levels for as much as $100, vintage ones. You wouldn't think it, but certain ones are quite collectible. A lot of the Swedish ones are really collectible. I forget the name off the top of my head, but they don't move that quickly. A couple months maybe, but they will sell. This is quite an unusual gadget. I now have 2 of these, but this is for trimming laminate on, your melamine or whatnot on your laminated panels. It says Eclipse 2005, made in England, and you adjust here for the depth of cut. I think that chamfers the edge is what that's doing, because when they lay the two together, they're quite rough, and then I think you can use that to clean that up. And then this must be a spare blade or something here. I think that's $20 or $30 all day long. And then this item, quite unusual. This is for the Sureform. Usually you just see the blade, I set it aside. Usually you just see these kind of rasp things for it, but that's what this is for as well. And it still has, it's unused, it still has the tag on it. I would bet that's a $10 or $20 item as a collectible item, but it's just a guess. We'll have to find out. Last but not least is probably my favorite item of the last 24 hours is this little tiny stubby screwdriver. I haven't decided if I'm selling this or not yet. It is quite a cool little dude. And it says, again, I'm struggling with the zoom here. It says Sun Flag number 98, made in Japan, 2-way. It's got a bit of Japanese characters there. But that, when you're talking stubby screwdrivers, that is quite the stubby screwdriver. I love tools. I could talk about them all day long, but I'll leave it for today. That'll be enough of that. Okay, that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed hanging out with me for a minute, and we'll catch up with you next time.